Testing, 1, 2, 3. Yep. Look at Brumet. Just leave it right there. What's that?
I'll go ahead and mute you over here.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Temple Buddhist Center's weekly Sunday meditation service. My name is Victor, and I am honored to be of service this morning. Just a quick reminder that at the altar at the back of the meditation hall, there are listening devices, there are throat lozenges, there are tissues, And also there are a number of cushions. For those of you that may want to sit cross-legged, you're welcome at any time to come up and use one of these cushions. A lot of folks like to use them during the meditation period and then maybe go back and sit in the seat. So those are all available and welcome to you. Again, we're so glad that you are here with us this morning. My heart is very full, having such a nice, robust turnout so early on a Sunday morning. We hope that today's service finds each and every one of you happy and healthy. But please know that if you are struggling in any way, we hope the Temple Buddhist Center can be a source of refuge and strength for you as we open our hearts to you and your loved ones. Let's begin this morning with a few conscious breath activities. We're going to breathe deeply in through the nose. If you can, if you have a stuffy nose today, then just breathe in through the mouth. And we're going to hold that breath for a moment or two and then release slowly, doing all of this consciously and together. Let's begin. Holding that breath for a moment. Feeling the fullness of the lungs and releasing slowly. And as you release, notice the body relaxing, becoming more gentle and easy. With every out-breath, we find a new level of relaxation for the body. And a second conscious breath together. Holding for a moment. And releasing. And as you release, giving yourself full and complete permission to unplug from that energy of going and doing, striving, efforting. Maybe it was just getting up this morning and getting the family prepared and driving here. We release our connection to that as together we cultivate the energy of just being. And a third conscious breath together. Releasing, and as you release, allowing into your awareness the present moment. The present moment might seem like a small increment of time, but it actually has no beginning and no ending, and we are always arriving in the here and the now. And so here at Temple Buddhist Center, we like to begin our service with a little bit of chanting. Chanting is an integral part of every tradition. Chanting is not about being a singer. It's about having a voice. It is about a deeply devotional expression from within to without, sharing what is sacred within you and sharing that with the world. And in the same way, it's also an opportunity to not only combine our energies together, but also our voices. And so our chant today is Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dharmam Saranam Gacchami, and Sangham Saranam Gacchami. This is basically the chant version of the prayer of refuge, taking refuge in the Buddha nature of ourselves and all beings, the Dharma, the truth teachings, or the truth of this moment, and Sangha, our spiritual community. And so I will invite Rochelle to tone us in as we take another conscious breath together. And let's begin. Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dharmam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami, Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dharmam saranam gacchami. Sangam saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dharmam saranam gacchami. Sangam saranam gacchami. Here at Temple Buddhist Center, we practice Western-style Buddhism, a blend of Eastern philosophy and Western psychology. This new and exciting form of spirituality is dynamic, it's growing and changing with us. It is active, it is inclusive, and it focuses on core Buddhist insights, as well as mindfulness, meditation, and their practical applications in our daily lives. See, our goal here is not to get everyone to agree on a specific lineage or philosophy or sect of Buddhism, but rather a shared experience of mindfulness, oneness, and love. Whether we are chanting together, sharing from the heart, or spending time in noble silence, we respect that you will participate at a level that is comfortable for you. We take refuge in the three jewels and acknowledge these core values as expressions of the awakened mind: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We value awareness of our Buddha nature, as well as the Buddha nature of all beings, bringing a fresh new perspective to each and every encounter. The second jewel is the Dharma, the truth teachings that release us from fear and delusion and help us to realize the true nature of who we are. And finally, Sangha, our spiritual community, an essential part of growth where we practice the teachings together and support each other along every step of the path. And so at this time, let's remember to silence any cell phones or electronic devices as we prepare for a time in meditation and contemplation. We're going to begin with the prayer of refuge itself. We'll recite this 3 times for the 3 jewels. Let's begin with a conscious breath. Grounding, centering in the moment. Together. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. And so as we enter a time of meditation, remembering our Sangha, both near and far, all of our Sangha members joining us from around the world over the live stream, we do not meditate to be like the Buddha. We meditate as the Buddha. And we meditate connecting with each other, regardless of location, connecting in consciousness. And so, if you have an extensive practice, we invite you to practice in a way that is fitting for you this morning. If you are new to meditation, then we're going to begin with a dedication of intention. We will awaken the bell 3 times for the 3 jewels, and then we will spend approximately 10 to 15 minutes in meditation with each other this morning, connecting in noble silence. And afterwards, Robert, our teacher today, Mr. Robert Brumet, will lovingly and gently bring us out of meditation, and then it will be time for today's Dharma talk, or teaching. And so with a conscious breath together, body, speech, and mind, in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness, transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow, and realize the true nature of who they are.
As we listen to the sound of the bell receding into the silence, we follow that sound into the silence. Allowing ourselves to be open, receptive, present, awake, and relaxed. With each breath, I invite you to go deeper into the silence, deeper into that place of being fully open, fully awake and receptive. To this holy moment, this present moment. Feel the preciousness of your life as it unfolds in this very moment. Hearing, seeing, feeling, as if for the very first time. Every moment is fresh. Every moment is brand new. So we notice the breath. We feel the sensations in the body. We allow thoughts to move through the mind. Whatever arises, we accept it. We make friends with it. And when it's ready to leave, we let it go. Pushing nothing away, grasping at nothing. Being awake to the breath, to the body, to the mind. Being fully awake in this very moment as we rest in the silence, in the present moment. Continuing to bring awareness to each breath, sensation, thought, sound. I invite you to become aware of your body sitting in the chair, on the cushion. I invite you to become aware of hearing. And in a moment, we'll hear the sound of the bell. And as you do, I invite you to open your eyes very slowly, very gently. Take in the experience of seeing consciously with awareness and openness. Bringing the practice to all of the senses, bringing the practice to every moment of our life. And here's the bell. Okay. Thank you, Victor. Good morning, everyone. Happy September. Happy cool weather. Happy water. The title of my talk this morning is In Search of the Sacred. And I want to begin by defining the term sacred as I'm going to be using it, not necessarily as the dictionary defines it. But I use the term sacred to reference anything that serves to connect us to a greater reality, to something that is much, much bigger than ourselves. The experience of the sacred is typically the experience of awe, of wonder, and of deep meaning. I think we've all had that experience at one time or another. And I believe that the search for the sacred experience is innate in every human being. I believe it's a very deep drive within us. Archaeologists have found that in virtually every ancient culture, there's evidence of this search for the sacred. In nature, typically from the ancient cultures, and very often from the sky. The ancients often turned to the sky, to the stars, and some of them had an amazingly deep understanding of astronomy, as we call it today, as well as various types of astrology and divination that they would use to read from the stars. The mythologist Joseph Campbell writes as follows, as he talks about this phenomenon. He says, "The mystery of the night sky delivered the revelation of a cosmic order, and from the depths of human imagination, a reciprocal recognition was evoked. In other words, the ancients not only felt like they were looking at the universe, but the universe was looking back at them. It was a mutual relationship. The universe was a living being in the likeness of a great mother, within whose womb all the worlds of both life and death had their existence. This is Joseph Campbell writing based upon his extensive research in this area, mythology, archaeology. And like I say, we've all had, most all of us have had some glimpse of that experience. And for me, the one that comes to my mind, or it did when I was writing the talk, was an experience I had about 30 years ago at a place called Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. And it's a place that was very sacred to the Anasazi Indians. And they disappeared about 1,000 years ago, but they had quite a sophisticated culture in the middle of the desert. And so the ruins are still there. You can go visit the ruins to this day. And I was there with a friend of mine around 1990, and we were visiting Chaco Canyon, and one night we were out among the stars, and if you've ever been in the desert at night, you know that just looking at the stars alone is a sacred experience. They're like great big jewels that you can almost reach up and touch. And as we were sitting there among these ancient ruins, looking at the stars, meditating, I had this experience of absolute timelessness. I felt that I was one of the Anasazi. I felt like I was part of the mountain I was sitting on. I felt like I was part of the stars that I was looking at. And I felt absolutely timeless. Just an experience of time is endless. It's in the present moment, and it stretches in both directions, past, future, and it all happens right now. In that experience, I left Chaco Canyon not the same person I was when I arrived. In fact, as a symbol of my experience of timelessness, I left my watch there. I said, I'm done with time. And I'm not necessarily recommending that, but that was symbolic for me. Time took on an entirely different meaning after that. And then moving from the ancients to the Middle Ages in Europe, we there looked for the sacred in the church with a capital C, which, you know, was before the Reformation, so there was only one church. Today, what we call the Catholic Church. But the sacred was part of everyday existence. Individuals lived with this sense of feeling like they were connected through what was called the great chain of being. There was this hierarchy of being. You know, there was God, way up in the sky, then the angels, and then the church, of course, the Pope, the king, the nobles, et cetera, all the way down to the lowest social order. And of course, it was very oppressive, as we would find it. There was no social mobility, so to speak. But there was a sense of being a part of something sacred. There was a sense of human beings being the center of the universe, and that we mattered. We mattered to the universe. And each one of us mattered to God, as it were. About 400 years ago, the scientific revolution came along with Galileo's telescope and Newton's laws, Newton's theories. And those two individuals opened up a whole new world, many worlds to us. So the scientific revolution began, and with that, we were able to study the universe. Prior to that, we were simply part of the universe. We were part of this thing that we just accepted. But now we were able to look at nature only because we were able to separate ourselves from nature. In other words, there was me here, and then there was nature out there. Prior to that, there was only one. It was just us. So this experience of being able to study nature opened up the world that we live in today, the world of science and technology. Very powerful. There's been immense changes. I don't think anybody wants to go back to medieval times. And yet at the same time, that has come at a cost. Much has been gained and much has been lost. And I'd like to illustrate that by two quotes. One is from an astronomer, well-known astronomer, and I heard this just last week watching the Science Channel, and she's commenting on the beauty and the magnitude of the universe, and as seen through the Hubble and now the Webb telescopes. I mean, we're seeing the universe as never before. And of course, it's immeasurably large. And here's the comment she made. She says, "We humans, we are but a speck of dust on a speck of dust, drifting through an immeasurably large universe that is oblivious to our existence." That's the modern view, isn't it? Hmm? Contrast this with Campbell's statement, "The universe was a living being in the likeness of a great mother." So you see, two very different relationships we have with the universe. Now we say, well, the latter, the scientific view, is the way it really is. It's the way we see it, just as we saw it as the great mother thousands of years ago. And maybe both are correct, maybe neither are correct, maybe there is no correct other than what our experience tells us. But the point I'm making is that science and technology have been very, very powerful. And I don't want to give it up. I don't know anybody else who wants to give it up. And at the same time, we've paid a price for it. In the words of Carl Jung, Dr. Carl Jung, modern man has lost his soul. In fact, he wrote a book almost 100 years ago called Modern Man in Search of His Soul. And he recognized, and this was clear back in around 1900, that we had lost something very, very important in our becoming civilized and scientificized. So there has been a great void in the psyche in the West. This void is a void of meaning, a void of that which is sacred, a void of feeling like we belong to the universe. With every scientific discovery, human beings became diminished, it seemed. With Darwin, we shifted from being the center of the universe to basically intelligent primates. And that's the view of human beings today from a scientific point of view. We lived in a universe where we were the center of the universe. Now we are seen as a speck of dust on a speck of dust on a speck of dust in a universe so big that we couldn't possibly matter one iota, you see. So there's been something very, very deep, very important that's lost in the Western psyche today. And I think much of the maladies that we're seeing in society today, in our world today, are the result of that void, that inner emptiness. In response to that, there's been a number of responses, both positive and negative. But the most positive response has been, there has been an awakening of searching for the spiritual outside of religion, outside of the church. And the fastest growing segment of our culture today is what's called the spiritual but not religious. We call them the SBNR, the spiritual but not religious. And that's the fastest growing religion, quote unquote, if you will, in demographic studies. People are finding spirituality in nature, in exercise, in art, in music. And of course, there's been a strong movement of looking to the Eastern cultures and religions for spirituality, particularly Buddhism. Of course, we are very much a part of that particular movement. We are looking for something that has deep meaning, purpose, and that we feel that we are part of. The separation that we feel, I think, is very painful. That today in Western cultures, loneliness and alienation is rampant. And it isn't just that we're lonely because we don't have people to hang out with. That loneliness is much deeper than that. It's a loneliness of being separated from our own deepest nature, being separated from the sacred. And so that search is very, very powerful. So we're seeing Buddhism take shape in the West, and we're part of the shapers here. We're part of that which is creating Buddhism in the West. And in the Buddhist practice, as you know, we don't look upward or outward. We don't look to the sky. We don't look to the church. But we turn inward. Now, many people think Buddhism is about looking at the self. And in a way it is. It's looking at the self and through the self. As we really look at the self with clarity, with understanding, we see that it is kind of a mirage. And to many that sounds frightening, to let go of this ghost of a self that we have for nothingness. But in that apparent nothingness is exactly what we're looking for. The sacred that we seek is found when we go beyond the illusion of who we think we are. So that's where the Buddhist practice differs from the Western and the nature-based spiritualities. Instead of looking up or out, we're looking down and in. We're looking through the self, not from the self. And the paradox is, as we look through the self into what appears to be emptiness, nothingness, no self, impermanence, etc., all sounds very nihilistic. But the reality is, that's the sacred that we are looking for. And what we discover is that we are that sacred reality that we're looking for. What we are looking for is that which has been looking. We are looking for ourselves, but not our personal selves, our universal selves. And from that place, we don't look for the sacred to give us meaning. We are that meaning. We are the sacred. We are what we've been looking for. And so I'd like to conclude with this quote from Dogen, who was a Japanese master. He developed Soto Zen. He was born in the year 1200, about 1,000 years ago. And he wrote these very poignant words, I think, that kind of summarizes our practice of Buddhism. I quote, "To meditate is to study the self. To meditate is to study the self through awareness. To study the self is to dissolve the self. When we see what the self really is, the self disappears. To dissolve the self is to be intimate with all things. When we disappear, as it were, we realize that we are not looking for connection because there's nothing outside of us that we need to look for. We are the sacred. We are that which we've been looking for. So to find that intimacy with the entire universe is the ultimate experience of the sacred that we're all seeking. So may all beings find the sacred within themselves. May all beings discover the reality that they are. May all beings be intimate with all beings. Thank you for sharing the Dharma with us.
Thank you so much, Robert. Let's take a moment to just embody the teachings, not let our minds run with trying to analyze, trying to associate, and just feel the teachings in our hearts. And as we move to the next portion of our service, oops, I forgot my clicker. It's not uncommon to want to stretch or move or change your posture or take a conscious breath as we move into loving kindness practice. Metta practice is what's known as a heart practice. And a heart practice does not involve the head or the intellect or concepts, except with the exception of using the imagination to bring into mind an image or a picture. And so to accompany this practice, it is not uncommon for some people who like to create an external gesture. So for example, some folks might do the Anjali Mudra, which is a heart focusing. Some folks might want to place a hand on their heart. Some maybe even two, or even if you just sit with your palms facing upwards on your lap. All of these are perfectly acceptable as we move into this heart practice. And so with that, we'll take a conscious breath together. And as you release, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of you, a full body image of the form that has been given your name and that has accrued the experiences over the years. And holding this image in your mind's eye, recite silently to yourself these words of metta practice. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. And may I be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of a friend of yours. And holding this image of your friend in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of an acquaintance, perhaps a clerk or a cashier from this week, a passerby, someone new at work or in class. Holding this image in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And as you release that sentiment into the universe, I invite you now to bring to mind the image of a difficult person in your life, a challenging person. Could be a boss or a coworker, a neighbor, a classmate, or a political figure. And holding this image in your mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be well in body and mind. And may you be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. Releasing that sentiment into the universe. And now I invite you to bring to mind the image of the world, all the plants and the flowers and the trees, all the animals of the land, the sea, the sky, and all sentient beings, including ourselves. Holding this image in our mind's eye, let us open our hearts as we send metta to us all. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be safe from inner and outer dangers. May we be well in body and mind. And may we be at ease and happy. Conscious breath. And in the true spirit of Dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, temple services here are given freely. In the same way, if you choose to give, please give with a generous heart, which means not in return for anything that you have received today, but rather so that those who may be seeking refuge may find it here with these teachers, with these teachings, and here at this temple and with this Sangha. And the Dana boxers are located at the back of the meditation hall. And we take a moment of gratitude for all of our wonderful ambassadors, those folks who have signed up for electronic giving. It's not about the amount, it's just that the regular monthly giving helps us to set a budget here at TBC. Gratitude for all of our amazing volunteers who help us each and every day to bring more spiritual connection and enrichment to our Sangha near and far. Gratitude to Rochelle for your wonderful music. Thank you, Ricky. Gratitude to Mr. Robert Brumet for your teachings today. Thank you so much, Robert. We appreciate everything that you do for this Sangha on so many levels. And gratitude to each and every one of you for sharing your heart and your presence and your practice with us here at Temple Buddhist Center. We certainly are the better for it. And as we prepare now for our bodhicitta dedication, I'll put that up on the board here in just a moment once I get through making contact with everybody. And don't forget our friends up in the heavenly abodes. Or the balcony, whatever you want to call it. There you go. And our bodhicitta dedication together. May the pure, brilliant sun of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably until all are illumined and awakened. And with our hands together in front of our hearts, as we go forth now from this place, may we enter each moment in innocence, guided by the wisdom of our hearts. And as we open our hands, open our eyes, shine our light into the world. Namaste. Thank you so much, everybody. Just a few brief announcements. Don't forget that right after the service, not only is there the post-service discussion group, which meets online or in the Heritage Room, which is just right out the doors and to the left, but also there is coffee and delicious crumble cookies Thank you, Carrie. Downstairs in Unity Hall. So you're welcome to get some of those and come back up or stay down there and meet friends and members of the Sangha. Don't be shy. Just walk up and say hi and introduce yourself and meet someone new in the Sangha. And you guys can have your own post-service discussion group. Also, starting up, I think it's actually starting today. Beth, are you in here right now? Okay, well, Beth, one of our very own TBCers, is a licensed certified interplay coach. And so interplay is a fantastic opportunity where adults learn to come together in a very safe and structured, active environment to learn what it's like, again, to play, to release that inner child, to find spontaneity and the sacredness and joy of just laughter and sharing together. So we're starting that Sundays from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the Rainbow Room. So please, if you have an opportunity, come back and check that out. And then as always, there's all kinds of wonderful things going on. There's also a sheet on the front counter that lists all the many classes and groups. Teresa's group, which meets on Wednesday nights. Robert's group that meets on Thursday nights. There's so many wonderful groups that come together, and these are all listed up here. Matt and Karen do Tuesday mornings at 9 for the Buddha and the Bean. So all fantastic opportunities to come together. Again, thank you, Kyle, for kicking off the fall session of Basics of Buddhism. That class has started. You might be able to get involved, but there's only like 2 spots left. So if you still really want to do that, give me an email or check in online. And as always, our Tai Chi Cha, which is meditation movement, is a drop-in class. So it doesn't matter where you're at. You can always come and learn new moves. There are 19 moves in one pose. Just keep coming, and eventually you'll have them all, and then you can join us for other Tai Chi Cha adventures, including our pop-up in the park Tai Chi Cha and some other morning classes and things like that. And I have announced, I haven't put it up yet, so you can't quite register, but you'll be able to register this week for our next Temple Buddhist Center quarterly day-long meditation retreat. And that's going to be October 22nd. And so I'll be sharing more about that very soon. I will leave this up here for you if you want to take a picture. And so again, thank you everybody. As you go into your day, I wish you peace and blessings.